Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
Namaste. Welcome to this 10 p.m. show tonight. It's Wednesday and it's 10 p.m. So we have Shri Vibhuti Jha with us.
Namaste.
Namaste, Vibhuti Ji.
Good to be back.
And it's a wonderful time this week.
Yes.
We have had Chinese withdrawing, should we say, with egg on their face, but that's not very polite in diplomatic terms. So let's say that, okay, they have had to withdraw something which they have not done in their entire existence as
Right.
CCP. It is actually a country owned by CCP. It's not China, it's CCP's China. And CCP, in its entire history, for the first time, is withdrawing like this. Certainly since 1962. In 1962, they had given a bloody nose to Chacha Nehru's India. And then, of course, in a very grand gesture, withdrew from what was then NEFA.
Right.
And that was apparently under some kind of an American threat or whatever it was, and because their logistics lines were too drawn or whatever. We don't really know why they withdrew at that point. This time, they have had to withdraw under duress. And that, I believe, from all my contacts, and of course, a little bit of the chatter on the news portals and other places, that it has made the entire world sit up and take notice, especially the United States, because the United States has been singularly unable to have those atolls vacated in the South China Sea. And it has not really been able to give some kind of a credible assurance to Taiwan so that it can assert its independence. All it does is those what is called the freedom of navigation sallies in the South China Sea, which doesn't really affect China's health much. And they keep thumbing their nose at the US. They did not even comply with that award under the International Arbitration Award by the International Court of Justice. So this is really something that really at least makes my chest swell with pride. What do you say?
Absolutely. What we say about China is I have always been suspicious of Chinese intent. They have no God. Their philosophy is very different than ours. What is important about China is that they're remarkably pragmatic people. And, I like pragmatism, but when somebody becomes villainous with their pragmatic approach, then, they exploit what is your strength. And that's what is very visible this time, that India as a country, the Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, and the entire country rallied that we will not take the nonsense anymore. It's a very interesting phrase that you have to sometimes abandon common nonsense and adopt uncommon sense. So that's what is important here to remember, that Prime Minister Modi adopted uncommon sense here. And that was take the bull by the horn, as simple as that. And that is what has resulted in a shock therapy to China. I would put it that way, to use the psychological term. Chinese received a shock therapy. They did not think that India will come up in this particular manner. In the process, the entire world has become aware of one aspect. And that aspect is that China is a bully. And, it is a bully. Their international reputation is in dust. The important part is for us to capitalize on that. Capitalize on that in more sense than one. What goes into Mr. Modi's favor is that it was not that he did not offer a hand of friendship and trust to Mr. Z. who visited India many times. They had many bilateral conversations, unofficial, all these friendship gestures that Prime Minister made, and he betrayed it. So he has lost the confidence totally. And it would be foolish on the part of Indian government, at least the current government, to trust China without any reservation. The trust but verify was never more relevant than in India-China relationships. So when Rahul Gandhi talks about what he does, it's impossible not to refer to that twit, as I call him. Tweeting on Twitter, that
the
is
tweets by the twit.
Twit by the twit. So so that's what is important to remember here is that why is it that China withdrew? China confronted authentic leadership this time. And that's what is important. So whether it was Galwan, the Kailash maneuver, and in every element of the Chinese relationship, we are seeing a completely new dimension. There was one thing very important. What allowed India to confront China so well was the incessant effort to build the infrastructure. See, the Indian soldiers' bravery and valor was never in doubt. Is never in doubt. Even in 1962, we lost because we didn't have the infrastructure to confront that. And it is a ridiculous policy of the Congress party कि वो हमने अगर रोड बनाया तो हमारा ही रोड वो use करेंगे to capture us. It was such a fear-driven policy that it was not even a policy. To call it a policy is a fallacy. So so that's what Mr. Modi did. It was the building up the infrastructure so that our troop movement, the equipment movement, the infrastructure movement enabled us that strength to go toe to toe. Rest of it is history. There are many Chinese experts who have spoken about the withdrawal from point A, point B, point C, Kailash Mansarovar, whatever. But don't forget that these are remarkably, in any kind of a negotiation, Chinese have been brought to their knees. Now the important part is that how do we destroy their international reputation? I've said this here and I will say this again. What China can't handle is India. They cannot handle India. And therefore, their entire effort is to create dissensions within the country by capturing various kinds of groups which operate in India. And they have an ally in Communist Party, in Congress Party, who have done a party-to-party deals with them. So, एक म्यान में दो तलवारें नहीं रह सकती हैं. So China recognizes that part, that India is not only large as population, it's strong, it has a great democratic infrastructure. You like it, you abuse it, but you can't deny the existence of this one. So China can handle an economic giant like Japan, but they are stuck right now because nobody in Asia trusts that country other than North Korea, perhaps. Nobody trusts that country, whether it's anything else. So therefore, the Indo-Pacific, that entire collaboration that is going on is vital. Because the United States also know that in South China Sea that they have built that atoll and whatever. You can't dismantle that. You can't nuke it. But it has to be contained. And that's what is important here is for India, as I always say, our enemy will do whatever it has to do. We must do what we must. And that's important part here. And I think, it has been it's a disliked partner as well. China, nobody likes them at all anymore. So as a result of which, we have to take advantage. Apple may continue to build their products in China, but we have to know that there are many medium and small industries that were going to China and for profit margins. It's gone. So it is no surprise that a lot of them have moved to Vietnam, and India has got some part of it, but not large. I wish we had been able to capture many more manufacturing that was running away from China. So, it has been a great knock on their face, their honor, their prestige, their trustworthiness. And India has emerged as a reliable guy. So I think that's a very big positive.
Yes, but what I'm really surprised about is that the Americans, especially the Democratic Party and the President Biden, they still seem to be pussyfooting about China. And when they are asked in the open and they're asked by the press about their reactions to China, they're always waffling, okay, this, that, but China, they have their own culture, as if genocide is an acceptable culture for any country to have. Look at the way that they treat India. Even when the Indians, especially the Prime Minister Modi, is actually falling over backwards to accommodate these farmers who have actually what they have committed. Any other country, the tanks would have been out on January 26th on the streets. Just try doing that in China, for which President Biden says, okay, their culture is different. And all this, what is called the teeny weeny press in the United States, is calling India fascist. Of course, we know where they're coming from because they are no different than the bullies that the Chinese
Right.
are. And
Right.
Chinese got a taste of their medicine. Looks like we need to give a taste of our medicine to these woke liberals of the United States as well.
The wokeism in America is absolutely horrible. I mean, yesterday I was watching a particular program in which they were saying that they are trying to change the nomenclatures of the phrases as if wordplay alone matters. So for example, they want to call the undocumented illegals as non-citizens. All right. That's the
They are
latest one.
not just wokes, they are also jokes.
It is a joke. Yeah, exactly. And they call it in nonsense undocumented illegals. They want to call undocumented individuals. So, so that's what is important. Now, what you refer to a very important thing about why Biden is pussyfooting. We know that there was a severe case of corruption between his son and the Chinese party. They got a lot of money.
Yes.
The
Yes.
other aspect, which is often not talked about, is the fact that when Soviet Russia fell, USSR collapsed. It was a joint effort by the US government, the capitalist system, the church. Everybody brought USSR to the knees, and it led to the division of the USSR. At that time, none of us missed collapse of USSR because we were not using any of their products and services. None. India mein thoda collaboration tha, but not in the West. The only thing they knew about Russia, USSR, was their Sputnik and their space and their Lada cars. Chinese were the fastest to learn that now it's my turn. Now the communism, Marxism has been defeated in Russia. They will come to China. And Chinese took their bold decision at that time to bring about adapt capitalistic principles, and they realized that American businesses thrive on profits. So with their cheap labor and opening up the market of China, rely upon American technology to enrich ourselves. This is what is important to know. And they opened up the Chinese economy for US industries to come, invest, manufacture, and in the process, Chinese products are in every home, whether it's your garden chair, whether it's your 9/11 pin, whether it's the mask, post-coronavirus, they are into every single American household. So the US became dependent on China for their corporations to become profitable. And as a result of which, there was a very interesting economic infiltration by China in the United States. They hold huge amount of treasury bills. So China can bring United States to its knees. United States can easily denounce and reject their bid for treasury bills honor. But in the process, US will lose a lot. So both of them know their destructive power in terms of destroying each other. It will be easier for China to survive because for them, the population lives under a regimented system. They will go back to riding a bike. The Americans will die, will collapse. The American economy will collapse. So what is happening right now is China is using its bully pulpit and threatening America that you do anything else, we'll hit you with the dollar. And that's why I would say that the entire effort by China is a long-term play. So everything is a long-term play for China. They don't play, they play geopolitical elements very well. You do not have a geopolitical shift overnight. It's an effort that is mapped to accomplish a particular purpose in a particular point in time. इतने समय में मुझे ये करना है. And that is the reason why the Chinese have been trying to infiltrate the American system and ruin it from within. And the Chinese are very successful in that. So US worries on that count tremendously, because their entire system is based on economic power. The entire economic power, political power of a country derives from your own economic strength. And China drives that economic strength right now. So I'm not surprised that they're pussyfooting on the Chinese matter, but they also recognize that has to be counterbalanced. Americans are not foolish. They have been the most predominant player in the global international geopolitics. They have teamed up with dictators and single party rules in countries to further their causes. So India has thus become a very important pivot for them, and they cannot ignore India. I have said this here, and I'll say this again. It is for India to play its card well. So let Biden be Biden, but he also recognizes that he can't undo Indo-Pacific arrangement that is prevailing. And that particular thing is remarkably favorable towards India. So I would say that, I would put it this way. Biden needs to be played by India, and played in the positive sense. You engage with Biden. You do not tell him that he is what he is, but he's weak. Let me tell you this. I mean, yesterday's news was that it's Kamala Harris who is calling the international leaders about the post-election period. So Kamala Harris has virtually assumed calling the world leaders because Joe Biden goes to sleep at 7 p.m. So there are many jokes going around, and in reality as well. So, it is unheard of that the US State Department had to warn Mina Harris not to jeopardize her aunt's political future, that you are taking advantage of that. Never happened before, right? Never happened before. Why is it being done? So there is a lot of things operating under the radar. I would put it that way. And US will realize very soon that China is not its partner. And how we play that game is all up to us. And my favorite phrase is engage with America as much as you can, because they are right now looking forward to India's aggressive stand. And to that end, I would put it this way, that the famous Prime Minister's strong statement on two aspects, that he openly came in support of private sector, is a monumental statement to make in a country
Yes.
where the private sector was looked down upon as thieves and robbers, and who profit motive is the only one driving. But look at America. 90% of the US economy is in private sector, including critical sectors and secret elements of military and other things. So Raytheon and many companies that are operating in defense collaboration, they are private companies. You gave them a sense of responsibility, that you are as much part of the country as I am, as the government is. And that's what is important, that if you do not enroll them into nation building, you can't do everything. To that end, his statement about geospatial mapping of the country, handing over to the private sector, is a big thing, is a very big thing, including the fact that he kind of lectured the bureaucracy of which you were part of, that you can't be running Ministry of Fisheries and Agriculture and tomorrow into defense negotiation. That's important. You can. I mean, it's not that people are not smart. I mean, after all, a history masters is the governor of Reserve Bank of India, right? So the point of the matter is that you can learn, provided you are into the business of learning what you have to do next. So that's very important. These are very significant shifts. I would call, in the Indian context, internal and structural shifts, that if you want, I mean, so many IAS officers come to Harvard School and various places, they do management courses and go back. I would say, go and do a shipbuilding course in Norway and Sweden. If you want to become chief of Mazgaon docks, if you want to be in shipping industry, if you want to be in agriculture industry, learn more. These are the questions that bureaucracy must adapt itself to. I mean, I don't want to name, but one of my seniors in school in Netherhat, I met him. He quit as the Home Secretary of Maharashtra government But he did a 1-year course in learning shipping industry and came back, became chairman of Mazgaon Docks, left the business and joined a shipping magnate in India. Point of the matter is that there is opportunity available, and we have to, Prime Minister has initiated very significant shifts, and though that is very important. And as the saying goes, that India's three biggest enemies are Congress Party, Communist Party, and their chelas. So he's successfully neutralizing them. That's very important. As in a great conversation that you had with Dr. Conrad Elst, he was talking about the fact that how the entire racist angle of conversion is being shifted in India. Your own guy is doing it, so it's no longer racist. So think about the geopolitical play that is going on and the things that we need to contest and stand up to. So this is the first time the sleeping Hindu has arisen, has awoken, and is becoming assertive, which the Panchamakars can't handle the truth. That these guys are waking up. So that's what is important in this entire process, that we must embrace the change. And I say this in the farmer agitation, for example. I don't know whether you came across this thing or not, but in New York Times, about 50, 70 organizations wrote to President Joe Biden that he should interfere in Indian matters for farmers' thing. And the issue is very simple. There are so many states in India, there are farmers in every other state. Why is it only a Punjab problem? Why is it only a Sikh problem, unfortunately? We need to expose that. We need to educate that. And we have to bring that propaganda to a halt. And that's the kind of thing that we need to do.
Yes, I think it is just, I saw a tweet just now coming out that Nikita Jacob, who early in the day got a transit bail. Transit bail means that she has now the time to go to the appropriate jurisdiction and obtain a regular bail. And her data dump reveals that she was actually handling the email for SFJ, the Sikh for Justice,
Right.
which is a banned terrorist group under UAPA. So much for the farmer protest.
That's right.
Now you know what the toolkit was and what the toolkit operators were actually up to.
Right.
And that, of course, that leaves a whole lot of egg on the protagonists of these farmer protests. But then they are nothing but if not shameless.
That's right.
Especially our great opposition leader, who absolutely specializes in making a fool of himself at every occasion. So that, of course, is about farmer protests. But because I am on this China issue mainly, I will come to the farmer protests a little later.
Right.
My thing is that this Meena Harris thing appears to me to be very curious. Apparently, Meena Harris was trying to ride on the shoulder of her famous aunt, and State Department put out a public notice to her. Now, what does that indicate, really? I mean, is that an acknowledgement or a kind of a special ties that the United States has with India, that it doesn't want any kind of a slip up like this, and doesn't want a woke relative of the Vice President of the United States to upset the apple cart? Or actually, if you really go a little deeper into it, and also see that, in the first foreign policy statement, especially I think at the time of the appointment of the defense secretary, what's his name? Lloyd what? It's
I don't remember the name. Yeah.
Yeah, some Lloyd. Anyway, so that defense secretary, both of them in their statements, they reverted to Asia Pacific.
Right.
From Indo-Pacific. But that was the only slip. After that, it's dutifully and faithfully back to Indo-Pacific.
Right.
So how do you read these two incidents if you put them together?
It's like this, one thing is definitely true, that United States recognizes one thing very clearly, and I can tell you on that with confidence, that India can become a reliable partner. And India has conducted itself remarkably well during COVID, post-COVID, distribution of vaccines, and helping other countries. And that's why, even if reluctantly, they had to admit that India is a true friend. And the global leadership has applauded India and Mr. Modi's efforts in that regard. Now, Meena Harris is definitely a paid agent. I would say that she's operating on the basis of her paid pipers. And so that's what I will put it in this way, that they are trying to change. They are being forced to change because of the Chinese pressure. And they have the left liberal kind of an approach. The communists, the leftists, they have tried to become politically correct. They can't displease a Chinese system that has infiltrated the education institutions, that has infiltrated the intelligence institutions. They have stolen millions of data from America in various stages of the economy. If you remember, during Obama time, the entire Social Security Administration data had been stolen, and that a lot of data has been stolen by China. And China is using that data to infiltrate and re-education of the American audiences. So their propaganda is very, very strong. The point is that all these people who are part of the Biden administration, they are all relics of the Obama administration. A whole lot of them are from Obama administration, who wanted to change America fundamentally. So you are looking at a scenario, that agenda is being moved forward. What is their ultimate goal? I don't think it is to weaken America, but to make America look good, not America great, but look good in the eyes, that we are all the same. And it will not work. I'll tell you why. Because even though American education, the young in America, there was a poll recently that 70% of the youth is inclined to go socialist, look at socialist preferences amongst the political candidates. So how did that happen? There's a serious dialogue happening here. That is where I like the American process, that when they see an anomaly, there is an immediate addressal of that. So trend and counter trend begin to play significant role in that scenario. And they definitely try to create a constructive alternative. So they are trying to focus on that aspect very seriously. So Meena Harris has already been advised. She has been, to use the slang, she has been shut up. She has been told to shut up. And you saw how the shift happened from Indo-Pacific to Asia-Pacific back to Indo-Pacific. So there is a definite recognition of that fact, that you cannot ignore something which is already in place. So US is applauding India because of the fact that India is the only country in Asia. Even if you want to call it Asia-Pacific, you cannot ignore India anymore. And that's the important part to bear in mind, is that the process of engagement that must happen for us is important. And that has to be very clear. The government level, at Biden's level, he may or may not do much. But there are many fissiparous tendencies जो होते हैं ना, जैसे कि स्वास्तिक को बना दिया, New York Assembly passed the resolution to make swastik as a hate symbol to teach in schools, 6th to 12th grade. Now, important part is that there is a coalition of Hindus of North America. It's called CONA, Coalition of Hindus of North America, basically led by youngsters. I know the founder of that. We persuaded, we worked together, and CONA has been able to stop that process. That all that you need to do is to use Hakencrust was not swastik. So when you point out to the American lawmakers that you are making an error, then they become alert. If you tell them you are doing wrong, then they fight to justify their wrong. So if you tell them that you are making an error in education, because that will permanently spoil the Hindu mindset, or as also the wrong, erroneous interpretation of a symbol which is, or you don't have to go to learn what it is, just go Wikipedia and Google. There is a reference to swastika in various parts of the world. It's a global symbol. So how can you use a wrong symbol of Hakencrest as swastik? Somebody peddled that narrative and made it that way. So we need to contest that. And the government has to become engaged. New York is a big state. It's a very powerful state. A lot of Indians live here. I have challenged some of the Democratic Party people that you must fight this, because आपके घर में भी, चाहे आप X हो या Y हो, आप स्वास्तिक की का स्वरूप बनाते हैं अपने घर में festivals के time पे. So how can you allow that to become a hate symbol? If we have to engage with Jews on this regard, let's do that. There are many symbols in the world. I mean, I have argued on this position that Ku Klux Klan used to use the cross as a symbol. So do we say that Christ, the whole cross is an evil symbol? You're not talking about that. Cross was the inspiration for Ku Klux Klan to practice racism of a vile kind. We are not talking about that. So why should you make our swastik as a hate symbol? So we have to engage with the US government at various levels in a serious way. So for example, the other one, the Kashmir Day, February 5th. So you and I may know the significance of February 5th, but the four Democratic assemblymen who peddled that resolution, they were wrong. We are reaching out to them that this must be withdrawn, because you are not referring to the suffering of Kashmiri people by the actual people who suffered in their lot, Kashmiri Pandits or the Hindus. So you have to we have to remain engaged. We can't let it lie low. And that engagement is a function of our getting politically engaged. So we Indians are, happy, working hard, making good and living well, but we are not engaged in the political process in America. And, gradually, even if slowly, it is gathering momentum. Yeah, you can see in America also, there are a lot of radio programs starting up. A lot of people are beginning to talk about it, because there is an unjust war going against India and Hindus, because that's what is important here.
Okay, so that's as far as the USA is concerned. Now let's come to closer home. Of course, we've discussed China, but not fully, because China has had to withdraw.
Yeah.
Not because of anything else, but because it was actually outgunned. And its logistical lines are frail.
Yes.
It doesn't have properly trained troops.
Right.
Almost 40% of its army consists of conscripts. And most of these conscripts are deployed in this sector, and those conscripts are no good. They have had to take a lot of casualties, and there were casualties. Helicopters were flying casualties out almost every day. So they realized that the winter warfare or any kind of warfare in the mountains is not their cup of tea. Indian troops are the most hardened and the most acclimatized and the greatest expert at mountain warfare. They realized that at Galwan. And, their artillery is outmoded, it's antique. Their aircrafts, they cannot be massed for any kind of proper operation. Within the range of the theater, there were just 4 functional airfields in Tibet, all of them above 13,000 meters. So you can treat them only as half airfields, because the aircrafts can fly only at about half their load from there. So all these problems make Tibet a completely unviable theater for war for China. It's realized, of course, it has gone back. It's a tactical retreat. I'm not saying it is a strategic retreat. It is a tactical retreat, and probably they will try and improve their infrastructure further. But then they can't do anything about the quality of manpower, having reduced their population and having reduced the entire population to one-child family. They can never expect a kind of hardy troops that India can muster. So I think China has learned it the hard way. But the kind of bully it is, it will probably not this year because they have this CCP convention. I think it's probably some kind of a major CCP function coming up in July. 100th anniversary of the CCP or something like that. So but that will be in July. So before July, they will not do anything because they don't want to jeopardize the happy occasion. But after July, it will be too late for deployment. So maybe we will see action again next year, April, May, because that is usually the time that is the best time for action in the mountains. But India hasn't slackened on its own infrastructure development, and probably by that time, India would also be much better prepared. So I think this was one window of opportunity which Chinese were not able to use. With that, what happens to that famed two-front operation with Pakistan, on which Pakistan was banking a hell of a lot?
India cannot discuss China matter without involvement of Pakistan, total Napak nation, as I call them. The important part is also in the China withdrawal is they try to push and gain an advantage. They fail because of India's preparedness and all the reasons that you said. So, we have had a lot of conversation on this, but there is also another aspect of China's policy. It's a tactical withdrawal. They will come back again. They will try to push again. After all, they are pragmatic people. They will try to catch us unawares or when we are, not ready, quite ready. So we have to be continuous.
Or if their friend is there in power.
Right. But they are right now having to tackle one more issue, and that is the Taiwan issue, Tibet, Myanmar. They are trying to find their bearing in Asia again. As I mentioned to you earlier on, that they are totally non-trusted people, but they have enough money and military power and political clout to push for their agenda continuously. So they are relentless. They will be relentless in their pursuit of their goal, and we have to be ready in every single way to address that issue. I mean, for example, there was a interesting information, you alluded to that one China policy, one child policy is going to make the country bizarre, that there will be many men who would not have girls to get married to, they are so they can't reverse that policy anymore. So the result is that they're
allowed to.
They are not allowed to. So the question is that now they know that they haven't fought any wars. We continuously are at alert with a reference to our dear Napaki friends this side.
Oh yes, so we must be grateful to them for keeping us fully prepared.
As I always say, every disaster is an opportunity. So India grabbed that opportunity to create the mountain divisions, various groups of various battalions and various regiments that are geared to fight a war against our enemy. We have even gone into their territory, attacked them by air force to destroy their terrorist camps. So we are in a much greater state of preparedness as a military, as a mindset of political leadership, particularly of the current dispensation. I would say that if had Congress party been in rule, they would have followed their great-grandfather's suggestion that not a blade of grass grows. So, jane do bhi yaro, usko jane do. It's not happening anymore. Indian armed forces would have perhaps met a debacle of worse than China, 62, because we won't have had the infrastructure to go there. So I totally agree with all the points that you mentioned. And the important part here is also the psychological dimension of it, that China cannot use an untrustworthy Pakistan. Pakistan is sold out. It's looking at whoever can give me some money. I mean,
why can't India buy Pakistan off?
I'm sorry? Do you want that headache? You would rather have...
You can say, okay, we give you $10 billion and take Gilgit Baltistan.
We can buy it. We can definitely make an offer. I mean, given the scenario where everybody operates on a 10% formula in Pakistan, there will be takers. There will be takers. Why we are not doing it, I do not know. But I would say that
Actually,
we have,
just something funny. I get invited by Pakistani channels a lot these days, YouTube channels,
right,
and I always ask them, when they say, "Okay, why can't we be friends and all that?" Okay, when will you put your uh, ideology second and put economy first? Because it is only the most foolish nation that will pay a committed 18 Pakistani rupees per unit for power when any amount of power is available to buy from India
right,
at 9 rupees, 10 rupees per unit,
right,
Pakistani. So, why? हिंदुस्तानी बिजली कैसे खरीद सकते हैं?
correct.
कुफर हो जाएगा। अरे तो हिंदुस्तानी टमाटर क्यों खाते हो भाई? और भी हिंदुस्तान को बहुत सारी चीजें मंगाते हो, यू डोंट बाय इट थ्रू वागा, यू रीरूट इट थ्रू दुबई, ऑल काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स. So this is an ideological nation, and this ideological nation cannot do any good. So because it is an ideological nation and the basic ideology is Hindu hatred,
Right,
because the whole Pakistan was founded on that basis, and because it is Hindu hatred, so I don't know how they will be able to take money from India and sell off territory. Uh, they could have done that with Bangladesh, but then Bangladesh was taken away from them.
right. The important part, Sanjay ji, you made a very important part, ideological. We did a conversation on the Purva Paksh and understanding the nature of the beast, and they are driven by India hatred agenda. So think about it. A couple of years ago, when they had their massive floods and thousands of people died, when India offered help, they didn't want India's help. Think about it. So when this is what I tell my Pakistani friends, जिस दिन तुम ये भूल जाओगे कि तुम्हारे ईस्ट में इंडिया है, forget India for 5 years, you will prosper economically. But if you, so long as every aspect of your behavior is driven by India hatred, you will continue to suffer. And Pakistan की image क्या है आज की तारीख में साहब? China doesn't trust it. China doesn't trust it because they can't handle Balochistan. They can't handle the uprisings that are happening elsewhere. They can't run their own country. And China also realizes that it's like a bad product. It's a bad product they're investing in, hoping for it to work. And so long as they can use it for a specific purpose, that's there. But the world knows. Today, the world knows. Forget about a couple of manipulations here and there. The world knows that this is an international pariah nation. It is the hub of training of terrorists, is the hub of protecting the terrorists, is the hub of return of the terrorists for the home part of it. Osama bin Laden was living there next in Abbottabad, which was next to a military camp, and they said we didn't know anything about it. So if you are either total liars or you are gross incompetent, right? So if that is your image, how many times will you try to project a clever image of yourself? So it is a nation that must be allowed to go down the tube so that a new thing arises. And instead of buying Pakistan, we should look forward to a Havan in which we say that kuch kar do usko yaar. In my side, from my point of view, I would say India must consider seriously breaking complete diplomatic relations and economic relations with Pakistan. It will lead to complete annihilation of Pakistan in the eyes of the rest of the world, because India is needed. You recall 2 years ago, post 370, nullification of 370, both the prime ministers addressed the United Nations. Prime Minister Modi talked about India inviting the world to come to India and be part of an economic growth story of India. And his speech was completely different, while Pakistan Prime Minister was ranting, crying, weeping about what has happened to Kashmir. So the world was laughing at him. It was actually laughing at him. What the hell was he talking about? So you have a completely two different personalities, one running its own affairs for global welfare, other one was trying to bring the world down. through its terrorist activity. So this is something which is known. Pakistan is something that must be allowed to hang itself, and we must hasten that process. We must support
Right.
that process.
Let's look at the Southeast Asia a little bit, and then we move to the questions and answers.
Mhm.
Because I think Southeastern nations, Southeast Asia, is the one that is most afflicted by the Chinese aggression. And as I had mentioned earlier in the program, that Philippines even got an arbitration award in its favor,
Right.
but has not been able to get it implemented.
Mhm.
And in spite of all the support that it has received from the United States, so the United States been appearing to be a bit of a lame duck for all these Southeast Asian nations. And I fancy that one of the reasons that uh, the sop of Indo-Pacific was thrown India's way was because this US was unable to tackle this beast all by itself, and it wanted India to play a more proactive role. Of course, India is doing it at its own pace, but you think that there would be a greater respect for India in Southeast Asian nations. Of course, there never has been any great problem except for Mahathir Mohamad's Malaysia for that brief period that idiot was there at the head, sheltering radicals like Zakir Naik and all that, and unnecessarily spoiling relations with the friendly country otherwise. Uh, Other than those little pinpricks, you feel that India could become some sort of a second safety guarantor for the Southeast Asia, or should we still stay away from that temptation?
It's not a temptation. It's not a temptation. It's a strategic need. Because let's put it this way, we revert back to China part of it. India has a big role to play. It's a big market. It's a big business. It's a great opportunity. And India is offering South Korea and every other country a manufacturing possibility. So we have not learned a few things. For example, when Tata has collaborated with Mercedes to manufacture cars in Pune, that was to supply Mercedes cars instead of shipping them from Germany, to ship them from India. We did not seize upon these opportunities, as I always say. Somewhere along the line, there is a funny sentence that comes to my mind, that we Indians never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. See, so we have to be grabbing the opportunity when it comes our way. So we are a manufacturing hub. India alone can become a great, great support to every other small nation that wants to get out of the grapple of China's, incendiary economic policy. I would put it that way. So they are looking at India. And that's where India has to become globally engaged. If you want to become a United Nations Security Council's member, if you have global ambitions, if you want to be propagating the theory of one world, one earth, one grid philosophy, so one sun, one earth, one grid philosophy, then you have to play your role. And you have to play a role primarily because we have the ability to do so. Like Dr. Elst was talking about, that our Hinduism is the most relevant principle, Sanatan Dharma is the most relevant principle for a peaceful life. I have told Christians and Muslims alike, to remain peaceful in the world, all you need to do, adopt one simple policy of Sanatan Dharma: acceptance, not tolerance. We must replace the word tolerance with acceptance. So whether you create a new faith called Sikhism, or you become Buddhist, you become Jain, you become Arya Samaj, Brahma Samaj, but you are all in the same fold. You go to the same temple. Venkateshwara, Lord Venkateshwara, Bhagwan Venkateshwara doesn't come to hit me because I said hello to Ganeshji and walked out of the temple. So every deity, every entity lives in the same temple. We are in the same home. This is the lesson that we have to carry forward. Our narrative has to go forward. In America, for that matter, let's put it this way, is important. India has to become engaged with Southeast Asia because they are looking at India with hope. Whether it's a Korean investment, Japanese, Australia, They're all looking at India to become a counterpoint to China. Even if you look at not militarily, but at least economically, once you become a home for their manufacturing, not going to China but coming to India, we will become bigger. We will have a greater role. And all the entire Southeast Asia is a democratic framework. So there cannot be any dispute on political haggling there. So taking that part, I think India has a role to play. And Indian Foreign Service, Indian diplomats have to get out of their non-aligned mindset. That is so key because it is so seeped in the Indian psyche that somewhere along the line being non-aligned is good. No, it is not. Friends work with friends. Friends prefer friends over the non-aligned. Let's be very clear about that. You choose your friends, you have a bilateral relationship in a multilateral structure. No problem with that. And to that end, India must get more engaged politically, economically, socially. Because, hey, look at it. I was surprised. Indonesia's airline is known as Garuda Airlines, isn't it? Where did it come from? So there is an acceptance of our way, our culture is already part of their culture. We cannot allow that to be dismantled. And to that end, we have to fight one industry. Yesterday, there was a wonderful commentator from Wall Street Journal. She described that America is today suffering from the industry of diversity, inclusivity, and equality and equity industry that wants to bring about all these elements in the political dialogue and a social conversation. We have to remember that we do not want to suffer from a dialogue of being everybody equal, giving everybody equity. Hey, there is a thing called individual differences. We have to recognize that as well.
Diversity and equality are opposite concepts.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have to create that narrative as well. We live with diversity. So, for example, I was part of the American Express diversity team in 1991 when I came here. And I said, well, all you have to do is to go to India. We are a diverse country. We live with diversity. For you, it is a management gameplay. But for us, it is a way of life. So we have to become more active socially, politically, every sense of the term. And I'm looking forward to that. The Indian Foreign Service, the Indian mindset doesn't have to be expansionism, but education is the key. And we are master educators. We have every philosophy within us, and we need to take this forward. Now we have to decide how to do it. Even the how is there with us. It's not that we don't know, but we have to take it forward. We can't leave it with the sense कि हमें ये सब पता है तो हमें कुछ सीखना नहीं है. So last time I shared with you the new game of business chart. I hope people have benefited from that. We have a learning chart as well. How you learn to be different, how you learn to become better. That's very important. And we Indians suffer from what we define as the enemies of learning. हमें सब आता है, हमें कुछ सीखना नहीं है, हम सब जानते हैं. तो फिर करते क्यों नहीं है भाई?
Correct. In fact, you mentioned that Rigveda verse, and actually, it is also much misinterpreted. And I had an episode on this, how it is misinterpreted.
Good.
I'll just read out the full verse.
Sure,
The
please
full
do.
verse says, Indram mitram varunam agnim ahurartho divyah sasuparno gurutman ekam sadvipra bahudha vadanti yagnam yamam matirishwanamahuh.
Right.
So he says Indra, Mitra, Varuna, Agni, Divyas, Garuda, Yam, Agni, they're all one. They're all various manifestations of the same universal consciousness.
That's right.
What people make the mistake of, that they put Allah also equal to them. That becomes shirk. They don't realize that.
That's true. Right.
Because for them, Allah is at a separate level. Allah is separate from the cosmos. They practice separatism, and this is a universalism of a different order. So that is what they do not realize. Anyway, Nice conversation. Now let's move to the question and answers. I request all my viewers to please share, like this video, and share it well on all their platforms, whether it is Koo or Twitter or Telegram or Facebook or WhatsApp, whatever. And of course, we solicit your contributions as always, and we also request you to press the bell icon so that you get all your notifications in time. Let's move to questions and answers now.
Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
Oh, Ronald Reagan is here. I don't know from where. Is there any connection between India-Tibet border disengagement and so-called farmer tents emptying out at Delhi border? Big question for me. Please reply if possible.
Well, since you give me the option of please reply if possible, so do I say I don't know? No. No. I do not know if there's any connection between the two in the India-Tibet border disengagement and so-called farmers. I have no idea about that. I apologize for that. If you have any answer for that, Sanjayji, you can contribute.
I fancy, though I would not be able to put forward any evidence, but my hunch is that there is. That is only my hunch. Let me qualify it with that. That's what it is. Next. Arjun Sharma, Jain sir, are fuel prices being hiked in anticipation for a war? Given the Sino-Indian history, sorry, fuel prices are linked to the international prices. International prices are rising, the fuel prices are rising.
I mean, just for your information, if I may add, even for here, for example, 3 weeks ago the price was $2.10 per gallon. It has gone up to $2.55. It's not that US is preparing for a war, so so that I would not put it in that category. And Sanjayji very correctly said it is international oil price depends on total movement of demand and supply. Winter time, the demand for fuel goes up because a lot of fuel is used for heating, and there is also that item related to global part of it.
Of course, I can give you a clue that when the economy had collapsed in the wake of COVID restrictions, what government had done was to impose an extra, I think, 6 rupees
Yes.
of excise duty.
Right.
That they haven't withdrawn, even though the economy has improved. So that's where the catch lies, actually.
Right.
That they had done when the prices had collapsed to below $20 per
Correct.
barrel.
Correct.
That's the time they had done that. But now that it is above $60, that still hasn't been withdrawn. Amol Garud, India government should declare Soros as financial terrorist.
No, look, we are living in a democratic country where there is a rule of law. If we feel that there is a conversation that Soros is funding, there is a halo around him that he is the James Bond megalomaniac oligarch who is manipulating the world thing in a particular way. He may be doing it. I do not know, but knowing scenarios as they are, it should be investigated. Maybe we should ask Shashi Tharoor about it. He recently met him, and he said he had a very nice discussion. So let's ask him, as an RTI, what exactly did he talk
we
with him?
need to do another Floxy Nosany hilipilification.
So we should do that. Ask Mr. Tharoor, what did you talk with Soros as a member of parliament? And why did you say it was a good meeting? What transpired? Or you just had coffee and kept looking at each other?
Oh, we couldn't have looked at him. He needs some nice beauties around. Distracted. Next. Oh, Tulsi Gabbard. Aloha, something big is happening in Mayapur. Guess. What is Mayapur? Huh?
No idea.
What is this cryptic clue?
And you're asking to guess. I refuse to go into
Okay.
hypothetical or guess at this point in time.
So, but Yogesh Soman, where US has gone, is basically lost a war. Wherever China goes, it is successful in intent. India goes in form of help, all gets is backlash. So you've been proved wrong just now. So
Mm,
let's move on with that. Yes, China has lost this war.
yes.
Next. Aditya Kulkarni, why India is not using Tibet card against China?
And, that remains $1 million question. Maybe Nehru thought that there was not a blade of grass grows there as well. So, I would put it this way, that India has to shift from the mind shift of non-aligned to be concerned in its neighborhood. If you are not concerned about your neighborhood, then your enemy walks at your door. And since we have provided asylum to Dalai Lama in India, and there is a virtual government in exile in India, we must demand things from China about Tibet. I totally agree with you. We must be proactive and engaged with that element. And,
I have a take on this.
yeah,
That is, this recognition of Tibet was linked to recognition of Sikkim and delimiting and demarcating the borders of Sikkim. Uh, that was recognized by China at that time, and quid pro quo was Tibet. But China has started intruding in Sikkim again at Nakula.
right, right.
That being the case, there's a very good case for us also to withdraw that
Yeah,
recognition to
absolutely.
Tibet.
Yeah. That's what I meant by being that get engaged and get proactive. You just can't take things lying down anymore, and you have to help your friends.
Naresh Chandra, Congress, Communist, CIA, ISI, Jihadis combination given birth to a new child. Kejriwal is a different kind of wall.
Oh boy, this guy is phenomenal. I mean, it is a disgusting.
Yes, that's a phenomenon. दुष्टों में भी एक विशेष प्रकार का दुष्ट है ये. Yogesh Chavan, China has lost revenue of 163 billion post-corona. From India? Good.
Yeah,
That's
what
very
is
good.
interesting is that post-corona, I think European Union, they have increased their trade with China by 2.6%, and China has increased its trade by about 5.6%. U.S. trade has declined by significant percentage there, both ways, export as well as import. So China must have lost money. I mean, I'm 100% sure we never get the data from China, the true data. But if you put the juxtaposition of things, if the whole world economy had slowed down, China could not be doing well. But we will never know until we know.
Ramakrishna said China's withdrawal is tactical. That's what we say. Can you guess what they would be up to in the next 3, 6, or 12 months? Nothing for next 12 months. Take it from me. It'll happen not this April, it'll happen next April. 70-year CCP celebration was scheduled in June, not 70 years, 100 years.
100 days.
CCP was established around, I think, 1921.
Right.
Okay, next. Will China ever get out from CCP's grip? If that happens, can India, China be friends?
Sir, Anuji, simple si baat hai. China is CCP. There is only one party rule there. And, the ideology is communism. So I don't think China will ever get out of CCPs unless they have an authentic democratic rule for any opposition to thrive or survive. It can be friends even now. They have to abandon their aggressive stance towards India. Friendship doesn't recognize XYZ ideology. We can be friends despite having disagreements. But China has a different plan. It cannot handle India as the second largest country in Asia. And that's what their politics is based on, that एक म्यान में दो तलवारें नहीं रह सकती हैं, because they know that India is the only counter to China in Asia. And their effort will always be somewhere along the line to undermine India politically, economically, and every other sense, so that India doesn't become a challenge to Chinese hegemony in Asia.
You have to understand also, let me add, that China suffers from what is called that Middle Kingdom complex. That it considers itself at the center of the entire world structure, and
Right.
the emperor, who is now Xi Jinping, is actually a representative of God. So, with
Right.
that kind of a mindset, the cultural mindset, China is never anybody's friend.
Right.
It's not there in their culture to be anybody's friend. So that's what you have to understand. Changes. Some in Pak media are saying that because of Pak, China pulled back. India should maintain good relations with Pak.
Since this word comes from Pakistan, you can trust it only as much as it is worth.
No, I think maybe China pulled back because they found that Pakistan was unable to help them.
Yeah, it can't rely upon Pakistan. Absolutely. Yeah.
Next. Varun, most people are denying the big tech is Dems control, and we can see with the online trends, they are promoting anti-BJP channels full throttle. Yes, we understand that. We
Yeah,
mentioned
yeah,
that as well.
it's totally clear. And that's why we have talked about many times that India needs to have its own channels, all its own technology base for everything that we rely upon on the West for. So I think, I don't know whether it's Dems controlled, but ideologically, yes. As I said to you, that it is diversity, inclusivity, equality, and equity, it become a new industry. So when they are trying to change the language of even illegal immigration as non-citizens, so you can say that they're playing a different kind of a game. Truth is a victim.
And yes, and towards that end, Jaipur Dialogues may soon have its own US channel.
Oh,
Vibhuti Ji willing.
yes, we have to do for the benefit of the viewers. I'm happy to say that whenever Sanjay ji chooses to have Jaipur Dialogues USA, I'm available, warm, willing, and available. That's what I would say. Let's say
Oh,
3 cheers to that.
that was said by somebody with a very different context, though. Let me move on.
I don't know that context.
Let's not even speculate.
Right.
Kedar Kelkar. If someone prepares life threat plan for someone but couldn't execute plan, do you call that person innocent? But Disha Ravi is this happens only in India. No, it happens in US all the time.
Oh yeah, all the
Of
time.
course,
Yeah.
you cannot even imagine their woke level and the judiciary the way they behave there.
Absolutely. I would add one thing here, something which this is perhaps the right time to mention that. The point which I was trying to say is this happens not only in India, but it happens in US all the time. United States right now is trying to rewrite its history. Yesterday, again, there was a very interesting conversation. Not to use the word blackmail or a black cloud. Think about the degeneration of mind, the way it is happening. White lies, not give a racial tone to anything. So, for example, in chess, they even mentioned about this. Why must the white move first? Why is the black not moving first? So you are looking at a scenario where the United States is trying to completely eliminate its past history. They have destroyed the statues. They are trying to rename. They are even saying that all the past, not have a President's Day holiday, change the presidents were all slave owners. So they are trying to change. This is the perfect time for India to proceed with its own rewriting of history. And I'm eternally grateful for Prime Minister to do that, that the priority list, this matter came up. So if we change our educational policies, which rightfully so, to restore our history in the way it is, America will be, the Democratic Party will be India's allies because they can't object to that. It won't be termed as a human rights violation. As you know, everything in India is a human rights violation, right? We have talked about that in the past.
Next. Uh, China pullback should be looked at with caution. They will try and save face and could come back to. We've been saying
Yes,
this all along throughout the program.
we agree with you.
Yeah. Next. Chintan Parekh, great discussion. Thank you.
Thank
Education
you.
institutions have been encroached by leftists across the globe, including India and US. How come we see sleeping Hindus and they're rising up towards culture and dharma, where US loses its way, completely leading them towards wokeism? I have an explanation for this, of course.
Go ahead, sir.
And my explanation is that Indian reaction will always be very different. It's because we have some of the deepest literature going back many, many thousands of years. And whenever we are in crisis, we can always fall back upon them and draw the nectar out of them. And if we have what Modi ji often calls, and because it's a very famous aphorism in our literature, the neer sheer vivek. So once you have that, then you are able to get out of it. That is the reason that India has come out of many crises again and again and again. It's because we can fall back on our shastras, our literature, our great history, and we can draw sustenance from that. The United States has nothing. What does it have?
Right,
That is the problem with these new countries.
right.
China can do that also. China has had several periods of renewal. But places like Pakistan, places like US, these newfangled countries, they have nothing to fall back upon.
True. Totally agree.
Sabrinath, Modi ji is like MS Dhoni, okay? When Indic narrative is in danger from left, he does slog over batting and gives new breath to Sanatanis. He's referring to yesterday's.
I
Yes,
know
sir.
that. He has been trust.
Sometimes you don't need to leave it for so late, actually.
Right. Timing is important. You although you cannot time things, but you have to act in time. That's what is important. And I think Mr. Modi, when he came to power, he had to undo 60 years of what we know has happened. And he must be having his own priority list, and he's moving priority list one, two, three, one at a time. So I think he's definitely acting. Otherwise, if he had not acted, if he didn't have the vision to build the infrastructure along the Chinese border, today we would be talking a totally different gameplay.
Right. Next one. Chitragupta, China is still cryptic to us. Yes, it is. We still need a lot of discussion. Discussions are not going to help. Only muscle is going to help. Any suggestions on books? That is my suggestion. Build your muscle, both economic muscle and military muscle.
Yes, yes. Economic muscle is a big one. We cannot have political muscle until we have economic pride, economic strength. That's what matters a lot in today's world.
Absolutely. Future of Indo-Russia relations seems like Russia looking towards Pak for arms exports. यार पाक के पास पैसे हैं क्या खरीदने के लिए?
Maybe Russia is giving them inventory that they can't use anymore. Keep it. Yeah, probably.
But even that, Russia is not going to give it for free.
Correct.
Take it
No,
from me.
no. They need money themselves. So, why would they give it for free? Right. It
A
is not.
broke country, it cannot buy anything from anyone. And even on the JF-17, they are not relying on Chinese engines. No, they're trying to buy engines from elsewhere.
Right.
They are asking for engines from Russia. If that is called great exports, well, so be it.
Right. And insofar
Trying
as
to
the
buy
first part of your question was
JF-17 engines, they're trying to buy from Russia because they are not ready to rely on China.
right. The first part of the question about future of Indo-Russia relationship, I think this will remain good. Russia also needs India. India needs Russia because everybody knows India has a pivotal role and there is a historic relationship there. So I personally feel that India-Russia relationship must not be weakened at the expense of one or the other, but you have to continuously drive to strengthen the relationship. That's what is important.
Right. Next one. Chaitanya, so do you think India must have rapid manufacturing units with special incentives which make critical products and which we still depend on China? I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Naresh Chandra, in near future, USA starts war in any part of the world to boost their arms industry. Yes, Vibhuti Ji, what do you say?
Well, US economy is remarkably, dependent on wars because they have. It is a as I say that it's a war industry. A lot of manufacturing happens because of the war. But in Trump era, there was no new war started. It will be very difficult for Biden to start any new war because in US is right now definitely suffering from war fatigue. And even if the generals and the war machine wants the war, I think the public perception, public opinion about that is really, really against. So, Trump had initiated a policy in Middle East, particularly he made a mention of that. They are fighting their war for last thousands of years. If they can't resolve it, why are we trying to help? Why are we there? So, they want American help. At the same time, they don't want a foreign country running their war. So you have a straight conflict there. So let them resolve themselves, and US will not be in a position to start a war in Middle East. Not in South America. US can't participate in a war in South America, Vietnam, Europe, or anywhere else. The only place is Middle East. And Middle East has significant efforts were made to bring about Israel, rapprochement. You saw a breakthrough happen by Trump on that arena. So, UAE has a tie-up, Bahrain has a tie-up, Saudi Arabia is looking at Israel. So you are looking at general disappearance of war for the moment. I think everybody is sick of it right now.
Right. Next one. विभूति जी आपने भी व्हाइट सुप्रीमेसी वाली मैथमेटिक्स पढ़ी है क्या?
I read about it, yes. That, they were trying in Portland, Oregon, they're trying to give math a racist bias. That math is racist. It produces definitive answers, whereas there can be many more. It's bizarre. The left liberals are absolutely going nuts. That's why I'm talking about the fact that here they're saying that now people in the classroom, you do not fail anybody. You have to, kind of encourage others to not to fail and give them liberal part of it. This is really going nuts. The liberal woke thing is really going nuts here right now.
Will Pakistan and India crumble under the weight of their own populations when we see the food situation and political volatility? India is safe, boss.
India is okay.
Pakistan, I don't know. It's a basket case already.
Right.
Next. Unless you get Rahul Gandhi. Sir, will Biden impose sanctions in India for S-400? If that happens, non-alignment lobby of India will get shot in arms. Biden will screw relations.
To begin with, even if India has dealt with the US sanctions in the past, this was a conversation about S-400, even during Trump era. And even Mr. Trump had said that we may not be able to avoid a sanction. So I think eventually this will be a political parlaying. And my feeling is that this sanction may not come.
Next. I think Modi should be now ready to call out thrash like Ilhan Omar and others. They don't matter to us. Why should we unnecessarily bother? Tell them to shut up.
They will be doing their tidbit irritation factors. But just like Meena Harris was told to shut up by the State Department and various groups, Ilhan Omar and others will also be told to pipe down. Enough is enough.
Yogesh Soman, don't democratic values need change?
Elaborate on that. Democratic values in India, US, or democratic values by itself As I always say, you have to draw a Lakshman Rekha in any value that you want to forward. You have to draw a line in every single concept, and that's important.
Actually, I agree with Aristotle on this. There are not many things that I agree with Aristotle on, but this is one thing that I agree with Aristotle, and that democracies will inevitably lapse into anarchy and give rise to authoritarian rule. Why? Because it has been empirically proved
Right,
in India itself, where we had a large number of republics. One of the reasons that India lost power because of its excessive decentralization and large number of republics on its border. That was one of the reasons.
right,
And even that king, even if you had a king, the king in India was very different from the despotic kings that we had in the West.
correct.
There was a large degree of centralization and large degree of what is called a plurality there. So you do lose democracies after a while. In fact, democracies they turn mad and they kind of get on to themselves after a while.
Mm.
Chaitanya said, why does Tripura CM blabbers, which is landing India in trouble? Can we have, what can we do? We can't control everybody. After all, there is Meena Harris blabbering on one side of the globe, so there is, you have somebody else blabbering here. You can't control everybody's blabber, boss. Arun Tangri, Patram Pushpam for Modi ji's speech on historical misrepresentation of India. Thank you, Arunji.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ninad Sagar, I think left will meet its death in India. Think Sheikh Modi is master of elections and he will screw them royally unlike Trump. But elections alone are not enough.
Right,
You have to you have to get real power from the what is called the academia, from all the soft power that these leftists enjoy. All that was to be taken back.
right.
Shabarinath, I was referring to Parliament speech in RSNLS. Okay. थैंक यू चीन की वापसी का अर्थ क्या है आज के संदर्भ में
We talked
So
about it. It is
we
purely
talked about it.
tactical, and we
Yes.
have to acknowledge that part here.
Why everyone in the US is obsessed with Russia? Russia with 1 by 14 economy is no threat to them. China is. US should try to pull out Russia from China grip.
It is the Democratic Party narrative. Simple. I mean, look at it this way. Even during President Obama's rule, Hillary Clinton went there and tried to reset Russia relations. I mean, there was all kinds of things which happening. Well, Russia was the actual Cold War leader or opponent of the United States. So the Russian thing hangs, the Russian cloud hangs. It had nothing to do with the size of economy. It was supposed to do with the nuclear power. And that's where it still hangs over. Russia is active. China is the one, you are right. China is the one that US needs to worry about today. I mean, what was in the past is one story. Today is another story. So military power of Russia remains, but economic power of China is more important, and US needs to deal with that quickly.
Next. Sir, is it true Texas had 30, 40 hours of power cut?
Oh, it was a big snowstorm that happened yesterday. So yes, there were millions of people without power. I don't know about 30 to 40 hours, but when you have millions of people with a power cut, yes, it did. There are a lot of windmills and others, turbines, they all froze. That is another conversation going on right now. Right.
India needs jet engine tech, France, UK, Russia, but we need it from like GE, Pratt and Whitney. What can we do? We can get it from France.
Yeah, we got the Rafale from France. So
Next. So who will be Republican candidate for 2024? And will Biden run again in 24? If not Biden, then whom?
Biden will not be running in 2024 for sure. My guess is, and that Biden will quit after his first State of the Union address, He will, on health grounds or age grounds or infirmity grounds, he will retire. President's position is very tiring, very engaging. People age every day. And so it is not to his advantage. His lifelong ambition is fulfilled. I think Democratic Party is preparing for Kamala Harris takeover during this particular 4 years. And, in Republican Party, we will see what happens. Trump having one acquittal in his, impeachment, he also could be a candidate. His motivation will be, if Biden can do it at 79, why can't I do it at 77?
Okay. Vibhuti Jha, thank you. Thank you very much. Chaitanya, so do you think India abuses democracy to the extent it hampers growth rather than should have 1 year for all elections to address political instability? This is what the Prime Minister is saying all the time.
Right.
And, well, if it can happen, but it cannot happen under the present constitution. Vipin Kumar, why is India still not able to manufacture critical components of mobile phones? Why we have to still depend on foreign companies, especially Chinese?
Because we are smart, intelligent in maths and science and technology, but we are not yet an international competitive in innovations. We have always depended on the government to provide innovation. So Indian entrepreneurs, they have to step up, and they need the government help, and begin to manufacture. Technology is available now. See, it's not the technology is not available. We know how Twitter runs, Facebook runs. What prevents us from developing our own? That now Twitter and Facebook is a classic example of thinking. Somebody thought about that and built the technology behind it. We have to think things from our point of view. We need not copy the West for everything that happens. We need to develop our own, and that's what is important.
Irad Maheshwar, we have to regain Gilgit-Baltistan and POJ&K, physically help Balochistan to have their independence and sovereignty soon. It will increase the production of ordnance factories with help of DRDO. It will boost the macroeconomy, employment, direct access of EU, Russia, Central Asia with one enemy eliminated permanently. I think that too many wishes in one question. Let me disabuse on you a few things. Gilgit-Baltistan has a border shown in the map with Afghanistan. But in actual physical terms, you cannot access it. So think about it. Really, I suppose you go to Google Earth and just look at the forbidding 6,000 meters high, the Hindu Kush barrier that is there. The only pass that Pakistan uses, or what is called the British India used to use, is called Borogil Pass, which is in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So disabuse yourself of that notion. Everybody keeps saying that we'll get an access. Hell, you need a 50-kilometer long tunnel under the Hindu Kush to be able to do that. Next. Siddhant, CCP suppresses dissent within and throughout world by economic might, but in case of a sizable economic slowdown, can the CCP and its communism collapse under its own weight?
The Communist Party, of course, that is their philosophy. They cannot handle dissent, and if there is a dissent, they go very aggressive on crushing that dissent. But economic slowdown, the Chinese are of a different kind of a people. People will follow what the CCP tells. So that's why the chances of communism collapsing in its own weight, possibility exists. I'm not the one to ever discount the possibility of it. But what may happen more is the technology-driven communications that will bring about the collapse of communism faster, if at all. Because now, when people see on their phone, on their computer, things happening around the world, then they will have a question to ask, why aren't we like that? And that is a bigger one. So there needs to be a communication war, an idea war to happen, penetrating the Chinese mindset, because that's important. Economic collapse of economy is a totally different thing altogether. Yeah.
Next. DPS, don't you think we should do paid international lobbying, agenda and narrative? We need a Swadeshi international media house. We need to fund Hong Kong and Tibet to protest for liberation from China and do tit for tat with China.
Well, lobbying is always paid. No lobbying operating on freedom, part of free lobbying. The United States is a leader in lobbying agenda. There is a lobbying force on K Street in Washington, D.C. That's where all the rules, regulations are written. And then it is sold to the Congress. Remember that part. So India must hire a good lobbying part of it, lobby firm. India has been hiring lobbying firm, but I do not know the effectiveness of that, because nothing has really changed at the political level of that. So I do not know where is the ideological difference and what is India actually marketing and lobbying for. But there's a lot to do for the PR work part of it. So that's important. Yes.
Harish Pokhriyal, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Victor Halder, would you please inform me if Sanjay Dixit sir took voluntary retirement? No. I superannuated from his lucrative job as a senior IS officer or served till the normal. I served till the normal age. It is not for any special but a curious mind. I retired at 60, not before. Okay, next. Okay, so thank you to all viewers. Wonderful interaction. And thank you to Vibhuti Ji.
Thank you.
Jai Hind, Vande Mataram.
Jai Hind, Vande Mataram. Thank you.
Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.